Hello, and welcome to the Authentically Healing podcast with Bridget P. Brown, licensed clinical social worker. I am in Colorado Springs, day 2 of this amazing soul healing solo adventure that I'm on. I just finished day 2 of my own session, and a lot of unpacking is happening. I found this creek by a trail, and I decided to park myself here by this refreshing water and just truly enjoying the beautiful scenery and enjoying this alone time that I am having with myself, with God, and just really sitting with myself. The instructor asked me today what my needs were. What do I think my needs are? And I had to pause for a minute and ask myself what those needs are. And I had to be totally honest with him, because I realized that I don't know what my needs are, but I feel them, I react to them, and I haven't given myself space to validate those needs, to meet those needs, to show up for those needs. I've been always just being a caregiver, always providing, giving, fixing, and never really took the time for me to just show up for me and my needs and the things that I desire for myself, outside of being a wife, outside of being a mom, outside of being a therapist, or anything where I'm giving, just sitting with what those needs are. So I'm at this creek, just making space and settling into what are our needs, right? I would even pose that question to you as you listen in today of what are your needs, and how do your needs show up for you when you need them, right? When you need attention and don't get attention, how does that look like in your everyday life? I know for me, and I figured this out right before I came here, I have this pattern of building up to not expressing that I need attention or affection or time. I just kind of eat it up and swallow it and keep it inside. And then when I'm not receiving those needs, what I do is I hold it in, and then I'll have a meltdown, or I'll become verbally expressive, from a stance of defense and not a stance of softness. And then when you do this, your needs don't get met. It actually causes people not to provide that because of how you approach them or how you express them, and then you kind of victimize yourself or injure yourself emotionally, because then you don't realize that you never really expressed the need in the first place. And then when you did express it, it was compounded with frustration, resentment, bitterness, anger, and then your needs don't get met. So I'm learning that in the moment, ask yourself, Bridget, what do you need? and convey that. I need space right now. I need boundary. I need to kind of show up for myself. Right now, I expressed before I came, despite all the many things that I have going on, I need to disconnect for a second, because I was just feeling very activated. And in activation, you'll hear me say that a lot. Activation just means that your body goes from a calm, neutral space to feeling kind of triggered, kind of wired. That might sound like your heart beating fast, or you feel tense in your body. You might constrict your breath. You might feel it in your body, like for me, I feel it in my chest all the time. Like my heart chakra is all kind of closed up. Or I'll feel it in my belly because my sacral chakra is kind of locked up. And I'm not making space for expressing what I'm really, really feeling. Or maybe sometimes you get headaches, you get irritable. It's different ways that your needs not being met shows up in your body. Or whenever you feel you go from calm to activation, that's the nervous system moving into that space of hypervigilance, fight or flight. Or if you were hypovigilant, which means that you were kind of numb and depressed and disconnected. A lot of us live in that space. And what happens is when you start making space for your needs, when you start making space for things to settle, for things to come forth, for things to start coming up, and you begin to name it, it's like your brain and body kind of connect again instead of disconnect when it's in that fight or flight mode. What happens when you're in the hypovigilant state, the depressed, numbing, disconnected state, you kind of awaken to what your needs are, to what your trigger is, and you give notice to what's going on. And instead of disconnecting from it, dissociating, or becoming numb to it, you feel it. And when you feel it, because this is a new reaction to your body, it's kind of pushing up to this fight or flight state in the middle of our nervous system. And the goal is to learn how to respond when you're in the fight or flight. So don't disconnect, don't dissociate, don't dismiss, don't stuff it down and keep it in, but find the words that connect with what you're feeling. So if the feeling is, I feel rejected by what someone says, or even by yourself, or you feel shame, where does that shame sit? For me, that shame usually sits in my stomach area. I tend to hunch over. I'm learning how to just kind of keep my posture. And it's kind of like you want to hide, you want to retreat. So for me, whenever I feel shame, and wherever that shame comes from, that root comes from, which is part of the reason why I'm here, right? It's like, let's deal with this shame. Let's deal with this guilt. When that shame shows up in my body, this is where it shows up. So I have learned to dissociate and disconnect from that pain and just dismiss it. But what ends up happening is that it'll start coming up, right? And then you get into the hypervigilance, fight or flight stage. And the point of all this process is for us to get to our window of tolerance, which is the very top, right? This is the top of our brain, the front of our brain, our frontal lobe, where we are able to disconnect from the thought and then the reaction. So, what is an appropriate way to react to something that it feels like shame, but it really wasn't shame? But that's how you swallowed it, and that's how you interpreted it, and that's how you kind of held it. So, active healing takes us to be constantly conscious and awakened to what we are feeling in our bodies and how we perceive that in our minds. The problem is that when we are in that fight or flight state, our brain automatically disconnects from the front of our brain, and it's just in this amygdala area in the back of our brain, right? The middle of our brain, the limbic system is just like going off, off, and we're not able to really process and think. Like right now, I could process and think because I am calm and I'm aware. But in the moment of being triggered and activated in our bodies, we disconnect from that part of us, and that's okay too. Sometimes we have to extend grace to ourselves and know that it's a learning process, it's a learning curve. In all things, we're growing and becoming better versions of ourselves. Being intentional about taking time out for you to meet your own needs and not leaving it upon other people to meet those needs for us. And if you've been anything like moi, sometimes people don't show up for us the way we need them to show up. And we do relinquish that to them because we think that they're going to give us exactly what we need back. But that's conditional love. And that is not quite the same because we all have different needs. So my needs for attention and affection may not be the same for other people who may desire other needs that differ from yours. So this is why it's so important for us to take the time to make space for when we are feeling activated. And then you got to ask yourself, well, what exactly is it, or how exactly is it that I can express this to myself first, right? This is what I need. Bridget, this is how you have to provide this. And then if you're in a relationship, if you are in, and if it's something of a conflict, how can you convey that need to that person? If you're a parent, this is something you need to convey to a parent. But first you have to settle and understand what you are saying, what you need. And then if they receive it or not, if they reach back or not, that's not the point, right? That's not the goal. The goal is that you get to express that and make way for that to come full circle back to you. Because we all are different. Yeah, we all are different. And it's okay to make space for yourself to just sit with what your needs are. Because when you don't know what your needs are, your body knows it. Your body keeps the score, and it knows how to react. It knows how to respond, and it's just trying to get you to catch up with that. And that's a process. As we're learning through this journey, that everything takes time. It's not a 1, 2, 3. Let's do it 30-second breath work and that's it. We live in a society where everything is so instant, and it really takes away from the process. We don't want to feel, so we medicate. We don't want to connect, so we dissociate in social media, and we go into autopilot. We ignore people, we ghost them. However it is that that disconnection happens, the reality is that this is the truth of what we live in this society right now. So within the society, how can you just take a minute to disconnect and just make space for what you need? Right now, I need to rest. Sleeping is necessary, even though we lost an hour of sleep with this daylight savings. That hour is huge. Maybe it's a longer bath in the tub or a cold shower just to kind of shake you up and shake your nervous system up in order to bring forth some calmness. That actually is very, very helpful. It's very, very therapeutic. Athletes do that all the time. It kind of shocks you to release you. What else? Sitting by a creek, finding a hiking trail and going on a hike. I listen, I made sure that I was by a hiking trail that was filled with people, children. I want to see people. I don't want to get lost in these woods and these amazing mountains. I don't want to get lost in these mountains. So that was me meeting my needs because I don't want to be afraid. So I made space for that. Whatever it is that works for you, maybe it's a spa, right? Or maybe it's just journaling, listening to some soft music, having a healthy meal, drinking some water, and giving your body what it needs. A lot of times we don't realize that when we're dehydrated or full of carbs and sugar, that our body goes wacko anyway, and it really shifts our moods. Carbs and sugar actually causes us to be more depressed, but then you crave it and you eat it and then you feel worse because you probably gained some pounds or you are creating inflammation in your body. So food and mood do coexist and is something that needs to be considered when you are taking time for yourself. So binging on food or even wine and alcohol is not good if you're already depressed and you are indulging in things that cause more depression. You're not going to see much change. So that's also something to consider. What else? I mean, whatever works for you is really what this is about. It's about your personal journey, not based on what I'm doing or based on what anyone else tells you to do, but whatever feels good for you. And a lot of times, what feels good for you should be something that you can control and that you have access. So not putting it on like your friends, like, oh, my friends need to call me, or my partner needs to take me out, or I need to go on a date. When you put it outside of yourself, it leaves room for error and it leaves room for disappointment. So what is something that you can do to show up for yourself in this time of meeting your needs and sitting with what your needs are? You can't expect you or others to meet needs that you don't have words for. This is all part of growing our emotional intelligence and connecting our feelings with words and expanding that. So sometimes we say that we're angry when really we're not angry. We're really sad or disappointed or afraid. But anger is like the secondary emotion. So we'll say, oh, I'm just mad because by this point your need wasn't met. So getting to the root of what your needs are is important. Kids do this all the time, especially little ones that don't have their words yet. They'll have tantrums, but they have tantrums because they don't know how to express, Mommy, I'm hungry. Can I get a bottle or can I get dinner? So instead, they point and they cry because they're frustrated because they can't get their words out. So guess what? We do the same thing as adults. We still do the same thing because, again, our needs are not met. And our needs for closeness, our needs for conversation, our financial needs, whatever the needs are, it's important to create a space where you can show up for you to meet those needs and not put it on other people to meet that. And honestly, for me, I'm struggling with that because my trauma response, because of my emotional neglect, was, and my belief system that I'm learning today is that my core thought is I can take care of myself. And I can take care of myself sounds good, but when you are in a partnership, like in my case, a marriage, if my whole identity is built on I can take care of myself, then I don't leave room for other people to be a part of my life, and offer goodness in it. Because for me, I can take care of myself is rooted and ingrained within myself, because there was a point in time in my life where I needed something and it wasn't met, and I learned to just meet my own needs. Like, I remember as a teenager, I used to, I, I was 12 years old. I wasn't even a teenager yet. I wanted these huaraches. They were white with red and yellow and blue, and they had the strap. I mean, it was vivid. And those shoes were like $50. And I asked my dad for the sneakers because at that time I was into sneakers, I was into Michael Jordan and into like FUBU jeans. So I wanted some nice Harachis to go with my FUBU jeans, and my Pepe pants. Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm aging myself, but um, I had I asked him for that, and at that time things were not good financially, and I didn't rationale that. As a kid, you're like, listen, I want this and that's what it is. But that just added to other things that I had asked for emotionally that I had not received, because there was so much going on in my family at that time, that the Harachis was just an added trigger to the emotional disconnection that I had. So I decided that I was gonna find kids to babysit. There was these neighbors that lived upstairs, and oh, sorry. Okay. There was some neighbors that lived upstairs in the apartment building that I lived in when I was a kid, and they had just came here from the Dominican Republic, and the parents were working all day, so they asked if I would babysit the two kids, and I did. And they paid me $25 per kid. And let me tell you, I was 12 years old, making $50 a week, and I already had my shoes within the first week. And I learned early on how to be self-sufficient, and which is fine, but when you don't create softness so that other people can help you along the way and support you along the way, because in your mind you say to yourself, no one's going to take care of you like you, that thought pattern and that concrete belief can create some distance between you and people. And then what will happen is that you'll start creating this self-fulfilling prophecy that people are not there for you, but really you don't allow people to be there for you. And that was something that I had started recognizing, like, Dad, Bridget, how do you expect people to be there and make space for you, and you don't allow them that access? And, I'm healing from that too. I just recognized today in my session that I have really strong core beliefs of not feeling safe. And when I don't feel safe, I become activated. I can't trust people. And when I can't trust people, I become activated. Feeling misunderstood. And when I feel misunderstood, I automatically go into that fight or flight. And for me, it's really about fighting and proving a point. And really, this journey for me this week is, you don't have to prove a point. You don't have to prove to be. You don't have to prove to exist. You don't have to prove to make space for yourself, whether others make space for you or not. The point is not outside of you. The point is in you. That's the journey. That's the healing. Is people dropped you. Yep, people hurt you. We are all imperfect, right? But the goal is not to focus on people. The goal is to focus on what you can control. The only thing that you can control, your locus of control, your window of tolerance, is right here. Right here. You at the creek. Look. You and the water. You in the water, chilling, making space, loving life, enjoying, finding peace in the midst of the chaos, finding your firm foundation, and knowing. I've always known that I just had this niche, this gift, and I allowed what others didn't or did validate to move me away from here, this quiet space with me. Take a breath, let it go. What comes up for you now? What do you see for yourself right now? How can you change how you perceive what your needs are, or what are your needs, number one? And then how can you meet those needs or allow others to make that space for you to also allow them to make space for your needs, But you have to first have an awareness of what that is, of what that looks like, and not put it on everyone else to just do it. You don't get to go into autopilot and then have everyone deal with your stuff. That's your stuff. Please, that's all my stuff. It's all my stuff. I'ma own it. I'ma own it all, But at the same time, if you do not verbalize what it is that you need, how can you hear yourself and help yourself? And how can others come alongside you to support you? In the Bible, it says that you who are spiritual, that we are to bear each other's burdens. You know what I mean? It's not about just you in this by yourself. God works through people. And a lot of times, like even me being here, surrounded by this network of prayer partners, a network of people that I've never met. I am out here in Colorado with no idea who these people are. I just know that I was so desperate to come out of what I was in emotionally, and like this rut that I just kept hitting over and over again, that I just had to go. I had to move away from what's familiar, from routines, from meeting other people's needs, and I had to come and meet my own needs on this soul journey. Is what is it that I can do to alleviate the stress that my body is feeling, and activates itself too. And how can I learn how to cope with resolving, with self-regulating, with staying in my body and helping myself come up to the window of tolerance, even when I was in the hypo stage or when I'm in the hypervigilant state. But I'm trying to get to this window of tolerance. And right now, I'm separated from the stimulus that would cause me to become hypervigilant or hypovigilant. And the key is learning your tools, learning your coping strategies, learning what new routine can you create for yourself so that you can learn how to deactivate your active body. How can you deactivate yourself from this place of hypervigilance, of anger, of frustration, of like missing the mark? It's okay. It's all part of the process. And the whole goal of this process for you and for me is to learn how to know what our needs are, then how to meet our needs, and then learning how to express them so that we can self-regulate. And it's a process. Right now, I'm just at stage one, is just figuring out what my needs are. And I think I have an idea so far. When I get off, I'm going to do my homework and journal and be ready for tomorrow's session. I made a list of all my core beliefs that I have. I mean, I don't mind sharing some with you all now that came up. Here we go. And, didn't even realize sometimes I respond and react from a place of I'm not good enough. I should have known better when I was younger. I did things that I should have known better. But that's my 43-year-old self thinking back to the 15-year-old version of me that really didn't know better. So how would they know better? I feel like I'm not a good friend, a good wife, or a mom. I don't feel safe, right? I don't feel safe in my body sometimes. I don't feel safe around people. I don't feel understood. I don't need anyone is another core belief, that I can take care of myself. Like I said, I feel like I have to self-protect, and that I'm alone. That's a huge one, which is why I'm always have my defenses up, which is a trauma response. When I walk into a room, the first thing that I do is find danger so that I can then create safety for myself. That's such a trauma response. I have to fix everyone, my husband included. I have to meet my own needs. And again, meeting our own needs is one thing, but when you are so rigid to the point that you do not allow anyone else in or out, that causes more trauma. I feel like I can't trust God with my needs, right? Because sometimes I feel like all these things have happened to me and you allowed it, And I think we all go through that point where we kind of doubt our higher power. For me, as God, as Jesus. And sometimes I put them in a box, like, I'm gonna pause you. I don't want to hear anything else. I don't want to be used. I just want to just stay right here in this box. And then, like, your gifts are dormant. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't know what my needs are. And that's kind of like where I'm at right now, is just trying to navigate through all of that. And now doing the opposite, or finding the opposite, so that I can apply it to myself. So y'all not the only ones going through this authentically healing journey. I am too. And I want to just be honest about my process so that you can identify maybe in some areas some of the things that I'm going through. Like, I want to be real and transparent. Yes, I'm a therapist. Yes, I'm a pastor. Yes, I am a woman, and all these different things, right? But at the end of the day, I'm also human, and I have human experiences that we all have as well. And my goal with this podcast is really to normalize what those experiences are and know that we are not alone in them. A lot of people have isolated themselves in that hypo vigilant state, and they have committed suicide, all because they thought they were by themselves, right? All because they could not feel connected because they were so numb and disconnected. And I want to bring normalcy to all of this, is that, listen, we all go through these suicide ideations and I don't want to be here thoughts. And some people take it to the point where they act on it because they are that disconnected. So let's create a space in this space, right, to just bring forth authenticity again, and let us speak our real true feelings regardless of what. No judgment. No, listen, I got 2 baby daddies. That is enough for me to let you know there is absolutely no judgment. Because even when I thought I was so perfect and I had it all together, the truth of the matter, of the facts that came out within these last 3 years, was devastating. It was totally devastating. And part of the shame that I was carrying, because I was so ostracized and dismissed, but really it wasn't about people coming to my rescue. It was about Bridget coming to her rescue and knowing her full truth and owning her full truth and walking in it, and not being in a box, not putting myself in a box or God in a box, but allowing God to use the good and the bad, because He loves us just the way that we are in our current situation. Whether you get it together or not, God is still waiting for you to embrace Him and to open your arms to Him. So I just want to really allow you to sit with that. Sit with what your needs are, and just start exploring what they are, even if they were never met before. If there's one thing that, no, 3 things, I'm gonna give you 3 things. If there's 3 things that you know you need for yourself, not that anyone's gonna give you, what you need for yourself, what are those 3 things? And start from there, and then ask yourself, where do I hold that need in? And how does it show up when it's not met? How do I respond when it's not met? How do I react when it's not met? And then start going through that process of self-regulating and learning how to cope with the activation that you feel in your body when your needs are not met. But I will definitely be doing an episode on self-regulating. I'm going to have a mindfulness piece where we'll do a guided meditation, and really with some awesome quiet stillness in the back. And we're going to work through this, because we are in this together, and we are not in a silo by ourselves. We are working together to heal authentically. And I just thank you for joining in. I'm going to continue to take this time to enjoy myself and have some me time with God, and write down my homework for tomorrow, so I'll be nice and ready to write down the truths of what God says that I am. And I know God has a lot for you as well. But you got to tap into that stuff, and you got to be open, and you got to take Him out of the box, and you got to just accept and talk to Him like we talking. That's all. It's so simple. Sometimes we just do the most for no reason. God is so simple and practical that it doesn't take all that to get to Him. Bye.